Hello, friends, and welcome back to Stories About Entitled People. And our first story will tell us about how doing the work that is written in the description will keep you out of the extra work. Would you just do your effing job? When I was 19 years old and a fresh high school or my country's equivalent graduate, I had no idea what I wanted to do with my life. The one thing I did know was that I needed money. So I started applying for all kinds of jobs. After a few weeks of writing applications, going to interviews, and waiting nervously for replies, I was hired as a full-time sales assistant at an international company making smartphones, TVs, and other electronic gadgets. Said company was in the process of opening their first official store in my country, and I, as I was hired about 3 months before they were due to open, helped them however I could. I created one-pagers, basically posters that show all the hardware inside a device plus a picture, translated manuals, put security tags on products, etc. Whatever they wanted me to do, I did, sometimes until late at night, still foolishly thinking that this initiative would maybe be recognized in one shape or another. Alongside me, they hired 4 other people, 3 more sales assistants and a store manager, all of whom were young and ambitious, just like me. The grand opening went very well, business was booming for the first 2 weeks, and everything seemed fine. That's where the problem started. The first thing we realized was we didn't have guidelines on how to handle returns and warranty cases. As the company's electronics had been available online long before the store opened, some people now started bringing in their devices to get them fixed or swapped out, none of which we knew how to handle. This annoyed a lot of customers, being given the information that only devices bought at our specific store would be handled under warranty only made things worse for us. We were getting abuse on a daily basis that ranged from curse words to death threats. Once we even had to call security because a customer was threatening us. This stress caused one of my colleagues to quit, understandably. This, as it turned out, was only the tip of the iceberg. Some of the other problems we had included having a break room with no access to fresh water, no fridge, no microwave, and of course no bathroom. All big no-nos where I live. Resupply came in sporadically at best. Sometimes we were resupplied twice a week, sometimes there were no deliveries for 3 weeks, making it very hard for us to tell our customers when their devices will be arriving. The store manager was so incompetent, he couldn't even finish our schedules 3 days in advance, although giving the schedule 2 weeks in advance is mandatory. One of my colleagues thought F this about a month after our grand opening and went on sick leave, which, where I live, basically gives you immunity from getting fired. So now we were 2 men down. The bosses upstairs apparently wanted us to provide tech support over the phone, which again, none of us were trained to do. We did our best, but only really ended up with more threats in addition to having our official store phone number constantly blocked by these calls. Also, we were expected to take over social media communications as well, meaning we now had to answer questions on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, etc., putting even more strain on our small team. In the end, the manager couldn't deal with the stress anymore and broke down about 2 months after opening. He even sought psychological counseling after quitting. While I was sad to see him go, I thought that now my time had come to prove myself. I took over most of his duties, still only earning about half of what the manager made. Naively, I worked 60 to 70-hour weeks for almost 3 months straight, still thinking that this would somehow pay off. I made sure to tell my bosses how much more I did than we agreed upon in my contract, but they didn't seem to care. That is, until our sales figures dropped. All of a sudden, I had 2 of them come into the store unannounced, basically drag me into a back room and start lecturing me about how badly the store is performing. The conversation went something like this. Boss 1. So why would you say the store sales performance has dropped so much since manager left? Me. Well, a lot of customers are unhappy with the way we... Boss 2. Our products are very competitive. Why are you still struggling to sell them? Me. Slightly disgruntled. Well, sir, as I was trying to say, the customers are not happy with our service, and running a store with just 2 employees is almost impossible. If we could hire 2 more assistants, maybe we could focus better on our numbers. Boss 1. The interviews for those positions are ongoing. You'll have new employees soon, but you were hired for a reason. So would you just do your effing job? Me. Yes, sir. After that meeting, I felt defeated. Doing all this extra work, staying late, taking responsibility for things I had no business taking responsibility for, the threats, the uncertainty, the stress, the sleep deprivation, all for nothing. And that's when it clicked in my head. F those guys. They wanted me to do my job? Fine. From now on, I would do exactly what my job description says. Nothing more, nothing less. The next day, I came in early, opened the store, everything normal. Until the first tech support call came in. I picked up the phone and, after listening to what the caller wanted, told them that I was only a sales assistant and therefore not qualified to answer their questions, hanging up the phone without saying goodbye. A postman came in with some special documents for the store manager requiring a signature. I said, "Nope, sorry, not going to sign that. I'm not a manager." After being informed that these were court documents and needed to be signed for immediately, I just shrugged and said, "Not my problem, just doing my job here, man." Later that day, after my colleague had arrived, we got a delivery of new product for the store. The delivery guy handed me the manifest asking for a signature. Again, I declined, stating that I was just doing my job and the manager would have to sign that. After making it clear to him there wasn't a manager on site, he left, taking all the new product with him. Product which we desperately needed. But I was beyond caring at this point. About 15 minutes later, I get a call from Boss 1 asking me why no one had signed for the delivery. I told him that, as there was no manager on site, nobody there was allowed to sign that document. After a few choice words, he hung up the phone and I went back to work, chatting with customers and generally not caring about anything. Half an hour later, Boss 1 and 2 descended onto me. They rushed into the store demanding an explanation for my behavior. I simply replied, "I'm just doing my job, sir, just like you asked me to do." Boss 1, "What the F do you mean? Then why has nobody accepted today's delivery or the documents we've sent you?" Me, "Well, that's the manager's job. I'm not the manager." Boss 2, "Yes, you effing are. What the hell are you talking about?" Me, No. Not only would my pay be pretty poor for all the work I'm doing, my contract clearly states that I am a sales assistant and as such shall only fulfill duties related to that position." Boss 2, "And who the hell is supposed to do the manager's job if not you?" Me, "I don't know, but I would gladly do it if you doubled my salary, of course." Boss, "Ha!" He actually laughed in my face. "Who the hell do you think you are? We can have you replaced with someone cheaper in a heartbeat." Me, "Okay then, go ahead. I quit, effective immediately. Bye." And then I just left. My remaining colleague, upon hearing me quit, also quit immediately, leaving our former bosses wide-eyed with no employees to run their store. I'd also taken the liberty of informing the Board of Health and Labor about our working conditions, as well as getting myself legal counseling for some issues related to bonuses not being paid out. The store ended up having to completely shut down for about 2 weeks until they had a skeleton crew back together to run it. The kicker? About a month after I quit, and with my lawsuit for unpaid wages now pending, I got a call from Boss 1, telling me he wanted to accept my offer of doubling my salary to become the store manager. He said no one was willing to take the job now that word got around how awful things are in the store. The following conversation ensued. Me, "Frankly, Boss 1, I used his first name here just to make him mad, "I don't much like getting laughed at, so I'm afraid if you want me to come back, you're going to have to quadruple my initial pay." Boss 1, "What? Are you insane? We can't afford that. How are we "I don't give a F, Boss 1, I really don't. But I've got an idea. How about you pull your head out of Boss 2's butt and just do your effing job?" Click. And our next story. You leave too early. I was a system administrator for a big 3-letter telecom company in the one smaller department. There were 2 admins, me, and JJ was awesome. Super intelligent, very friendly, great at his job. He and I decided that I would come in early and he would stay late, so there was more coverage during the day. It worked great for both of us for a few years. I would get to work around 6:30 a.m., I would review all the system-generated reports overnight, check the health of the servers and database, and then generate the daily reports for various managers throughout the company, including my own manager and his boss. After 9 hours, plus 1 for lunch, I'd go home around 4:30 every day. Jay would show up around 10:30 and would usually be the last person to leave around 7. My old boss left, and my new boss, T, was a major idiot and a huge a-hole. He knew nothing about IT and should have never been put in charge of people. He was a nepotism hire. After about 6 months of T working there, he brought me into his office. He said that he was very concerned about how I would just up and leave every day at 4:30. So consistent that you could set your watch by it. I tried to explain that I'm there at 6:30, 3 hours before he showed up and 4 hours before Jay showed up, but T was having none of that. I was leaving way too early. I asked him what my hours should be. He said, be more like Jay. He's usually here long after everyone else leaves. Once again, I tried to point out that Jay gets there at 10:30, 4 hours after me, and leaves by 7, an 8.5-hour day with an hour lunch, where I get there at 6:30 and leave at 4:30, a 10-hour day with an hour lunch. T just couldn't comprehend that. So I complied. I told him that I would be the last one to leave from now on. T was happy. So I came to work about 10:15 the next morning, which was a Friday. I started my normal routine, and about 10 minutes later, Jay came in. We worked the day, and the last person, with the exception of Jay and me, left around 6:30. We both left at 6:45, and I made sure that Jay left the building before me. The following Monday, I showed up again at 10:15. This time, there was about a dozen emails and a few voicemails from managers and executives all over the company wanting to know why they haven't received their daily reports. These reports were used in various Monday morning meetings all over the globe. I explained to them that my hours have changed and they would be getting their daily reports by 1 p.m. One of those executives was my boss's boss's boss. Before the end of the day, I was in her office with T and T's boss. I explained to her the same situation that I had explained to T before this all started. She immediately told T that the work I did between 6:30 and 10:30 was mission critical to the entire company, and I was to immediately go back to my old schedule. I then sheepishly pointed out that 6:30 to 4:30 was a 9-hour workday, and Jay's 10:30 to 7 was a 7.5-hour workday. I said I would be happy to go back to a 6:30 start time, but was going to limit my hours to 8 hours since I didn't get overtime. So starting the next day, Tuesday, and every day after, I showed up at 4:30, did my work, and smiled, and waved at T when I went home at 3:30 later that afternoon. So consistent, you could set your watch by it. Hey guys, thank you all for watching the video, and I'll see you in the next one.